Set my jib.
Wicked sick.
Hey everybody, How2Dota back again. This week I'm going to be covering a warding episode, covering some basic and advanced techniques. Hopefully you can learn something new. Many people, they don't like playing support. They don't want to be the ward bitch and have to spend so much money and be absolutely broke the whole game, especially if you're versing an invis hero. You're just crying over buying sentries the whole game. It's not the funnest thing in the world. Alright, so here is a little splash sheet of the basic things you need to know about warding. I'm sure many of you know this. You can start losing wards if you let it sit at 4 stock and you're not allowing them to replenish. So just be continually buying them and stocking up and holding them, even if you're not going to plant them. As long as you have them in your inventory and you're moving around the map, you're a threat to the other team, and they can see that you're holding wards and not sure exactly if and when you're placing them. You can kind of do a little zigzag pattern, go into some common warding spots, just to have people think that you're placing them if they're not actually watching you too closely. So always be buying them, always have them on you. They're good. You might need to actively place them in a fight. You never know. I usually have my sentries on a hotkey, so if I'm holding sentries and observers, always have the sentries first in case you need to actively place one in a team fight. Or usually it's just good practice just to place the sentry ward before the observer so you don't get caught placing it onto a sentry to begin with and losing your ward. It's not very good. So I'm going to be covering some basic uncommon warding spots in this episode, and I've denoted 2 heroes as ward masters, Slark and Zeus, just because they really can control the game, and Slark can sniff out wards. It takes a little bit of practice. If you play enough Slark games, people are going to hate you, but you can really lay down some map control. And if you have Zeus on the same team, then you can use his lightning bolt to start dewarding, and it won't cost you a sentry, just a little bit of mana, which is, absolutely OP, especially if you're playing a support Zeus, which it's highly situational. Don't actually get into that and ruin my pub games. All right, let's get right into it. If you don't recognize this map, you're probably in the wrong place. But here I have white stars covering all of the common warding locations. Many of these, actually all of them, are on what I call spires. Other people call them cliffs or hills, or that's where you're supposed to be placing wards if they're not painfully obvious already. Many of them give you 1600 vision radius right off the bat. Actually, yeah, the 2 by the Roche pit are blocked by the tree, so they do not give you vision backward. So this is going to be where you're placing your wards 90% of the time. If you're just casually placing them throughout the game, casually wanting to deward, these are the spots you're going to want to look for, at least to start off. So next we get into uncommon warding spots, and there are a lot of these. These are the ones I could come up with off the top of my head. You're going to find out most of these spots just by playing games, learning. Maybe they shift with the meta slightly, depending on the pace of the game and how fast and where ganks or fights tend to break out. So just understand the pace of the game, and once the common warding spots have been sniffed out by the enemy team and they start to get dewarded, you're going to start wanting to progress into these uncommon warding spots so that your stuff doesn't get dewarded as much. And these 2 by just east of the Roshan pit, they're really close to each other, and the Dyer's Secret Shop, those are really close together, and they're both ultra common. I like to place wards on top of ramps all the time, but I'll place a sentry ward right in between those 2 spots just to see if I can get 2 birds with 1 stone, or even between the ramps on the Dyer's Secret Shop side too. You'll figure out common spots, I'm sure. Just live and learn, understand what works, but these are what I denote the uncommon warding spots. So as we travel deeper into the rabbit hole of Dota 2 psychology, we start to get into what I call obscure warding locations. So the common ones have been dewarded. You've been going back and forth, warding, dewarding, what have you. If you can't quite ignore the coming warding locations just because how much vision they grant you. But if they're really sniffing them out, they're placed, not with the best vision, but at least you're going to have something to work with for your team. A couple of these on the edges of the map are what people call tinker wards. You're going to be getting vision in those trees. You might be able to sniff out a gank later in the game. This one I want to point out on the very top, the highest star, right outside the dire base there, is I learned that one from a pro game. Someone placed it there. That is an extremely good ward to have when you're sieging high ground because you can see who's on top of the ramp, how close they are. If you can get away with some hits with a ranged hero, if you don't have someone with flying vision such as Wyvern, Night Stalker, or Coddle. Next we have early game wards, just for laning and trying to catch out ganks, pre 10 minutes. I'm not going to spend too much time on these. You're usually going to want to throw these deeper than your side of the map, so a little bit closer to the radiant if you're dire and vice versa. If you're playing a sniper or Zeus mid, or they have a spirit breaker, you're definitely going to want these closer to your tower just so you can see the ganks coming a little sooner. And if you're playing anti-mage or specter, someone who's going to need a lot of farm, I would definitely have plenty of these before you get your first two big items. Alright, and lastly we have what I like to call late game wards. The two that are on either side that are on the high ground of the base, these are good for sieging and catching high ground. A lot of the times the enemy team can see you place these, so you're only going to have them for a few seconds if that's even worth it. But sometimes it is, or even if you're trying to bait a hook from Pudge, whatever it may be, those are usually pretty useful. The ones that I have right in the middle of each lane outside of the base are the ones you're going to want to place close to your base if they already have megas or you're just really turtled in and can't leave your base. You're going to want to see anyone who's nearby coming and going from your base. If they have a gem, they're going to get sniffed out, unfortunately, but just to provide any sort of vision, maybe you can set up a quick smoke out of your base to try and kill them if they're going to be dewarding those right away. Alright, sorry if I was boring anyone with all that talking. I'm going to get into some gameplay here. This is me playing Winter Wyvern. It's about a 4K game. We did end up losing this one because Arc Warden is, a pretty big bitch to deal with. Sniper, you're not going to be able to siege high ground very well, but I'm going to be highlighting this movement that allowed me to sniff out this ward here. So we have a Slardar. He's going around doing Slardar things. He's being pretty aggressive. Let's see what he's going here. He's 3-3, whatever. So I noticed him. I'm running away from him, and he is still chasing me. He knew exactly my pathing. He knew where I was, and he's chasing me, and he's fairly confident. He's got a Sand King behind him. They're all streamlining here, expecting the pick-off to happen. But I'm like, he is moving so aggressively, and even more so, he aggressively goes for this crush. Or I guess he doesn't crush me, but at least gets a vision off. But I'm like, that was a little peculiar. I do believe there's a ward there, so I buy the wards. I get them right on me. And just like that, I place it right in the middle so I can catch out these two spots. I use my Q to get it from a distance safely in case they were still going to follow up on that. Alright, so a little earlier into the game, this is breaching right into the mid game. I'm going to be talking about how I'm going to be layering and placing my wards. I think it was Merlini who I'm quoting here by saying that your wards should be placed as far as the creeps have progressed. So if you are pushing and dominating, your wards should reflect it and you should have deeper wards. So right here we have mid game, 14 minutes in. The score is fairly even. I'm playing pretty well. We won our safe lane. So I'm going to be doing what I call a warding expedition. This usually isn't very good because it's kind of predictable, and they can kind of, if they do have more wards than you, they can track your path and see what's going on. But I have accumulated 4 wards here. I just picked up a ton of sentries because I'm, pretty wealthy. So I just TP'd in through bot, and I'm going to, got caught by a spear there. I'm going to place a sentry here, try and sniff out either of those 2 warding locations. Place one there, and I'm just going to get a nice little line here across the river of everywhere I think would be a good spot to lay down some vision. Oh, I skipped backwards there. Skipping forwards, you know, that's another common warding spot if they're trying to be aggressive on you. Place one to protect our jungle here. And place one right here just in case they see me coming. So I place the sentry first, then the observer. I mentioned that earlier. So right now we have this whole side of the map lit up, and it's good because they're sieging this tower. So if someone comes to help and TP in, I'm going to see them. If someone's trying to invade from the backside, I'm going to see them, and we're in a really good position. Even though they see us with these two wards, we're in a good position to defend this tower if need be. I'm popping the fort. I'm doing everything I can to defend this. It's not really going to pay off, but I just saw the Sand King there. At a moment's notice, I'm backing up all the way. I'm not going to stop running. He would have gotten a pick off on me there, probably a duel, but because I placed that observer ward, I'm able to get away safely. Alright, so this clip, I'm going to be doing something a little more unorthodox. I'm going to be playing my Slark. Pretty strong hero for me. I mentioned that he dominates the warding game. I'm going to be laning against a Nature's Prophet here, who I forgot has extremely high base attack damage. Upwards of, let's see here, 62, so he's going to be outlast hitting me from a range. I pick up the Quelling Blade just to help, and because I know he's going to be putting me in the trees, and I'm not always going to have my pounce early to escape the gank. So it's really nice to have a Quelling Blade just to cut those trees down and make the quick escape, but I do something pretty interesting here a little later. Let's see if I can find it. I'm going to be, as you can see, I have a sentry in my inventory, so I'm going to say, I know where the observer wards are. I can stiff them out. I'm not going to wait for Crystal Maiden or Skywrath to pick up the observer ward. So I'm going to be placing sentries where I have full confidence where the observers are going to be. And guess what? The sentry pays for itself. You're going to get 100 gold back and a little more experience. So I have no problem buying all the observer or sentry wards. And it really pays off in the end here. You'll see how many D wards I get. I place the... So I have a ward right in the middle there. It's obviously my vision, so I know it's there. My Shadow Dance is gone. Boom, eat that one real quick. Skip ahead a few minutes. I pick up my second sentry ward. Watching my Shadow Dance, goes away right there. I did see someone, but it was still off. I didn't think he had a Shadow Blade. Take out that one real quick. It's number 2. Here I pick up another one. Time's going to pass. We'll see if I can't figure out another one. Yep, I got that one real quick. See, I was Shadow Bladed. Must have seen it before. But take it out, no problem. It's number 3. Alright, now it's 30 minutes in. I'm feeling confident about my D wards. We're on our heels. We haven't taken a single tower. I'm grabbing 3 sentries. I'm like, we need to make it. It's make or break at this point. They have an Ursa. We need to take down their vision, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get out of here alive. Alright, so right at 32 minutes, something interesting happens. I'm walking around, and right here, my Shadow Dance stops, and I'm like, my Shadow Dance should not be stopping here. I'm just out of range. I wasn't slowed here. I'm just out of range of this spire. There's a really obscure ward around here somewhere. I've never seen anyone ward in this location before, but I'm like, you know what? It might be on this ramp. It might be around the corner. Throw down this sentry, and it nearly misses. If I can get the sentry. Well, it comes up right across here. It nearly misses this observer ward, which is pretty tragic. I throw one here. I'm like, where the heck is this thing? Doesn't really matter. They see us running around, 3 of us, so it's pretty stupid for Ursa to step up here. He doesn't see me coming. Lucky little bash. I'll take it. You know, fight, 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 whatever. Alright, so again, you see me walking around with my sentry ward. I'm running quick there. I slow down right around this corner. Boom. Another great warding location taken out. So if you are playing Slark, I've never done it before buying sentries, but they pay for themselves, and I think it's a pretty nifty little trick that you can try in one of your games.